folks. Happy Tuesday. Normally we'll go on Monday, but we had some logistical issues, so we decided to go on Tuesday. We'll be doing a show tomorrow and on Friday, but we'll start the unusual Tuesday show with the pre-show. Go ahead, Russ.
Yeah, so let's talk a minute about NFL free agency, how weird it's getting, because we saw Justin Fields get traded for almost nothing.
Now, okay, it was almost nothing because I think he's in his fourth year, going on his fifth, so they have to exercise the option, and plus, like, his salary, it's not going to be like $40 million, but it's going to be significant.
Yeah, but I mean, this is the NFL who's got loads of payroll.
Yeah, they gave him away for nothing.
They gave him away for nothing, so it's just money, really. So you have that. You have the whole thing with Aaron Rodgers that now seems to have sorted itself out.
He's not running for vice president.
He is not running. He hasn't said that.
But there is a new because remember, there were two candidates. There was Aaron Rodgers, and there was Jesse the Body, and now
there's a woman.
Okay, I didn't hear about the woman, but now there's another one. It's the guy Mike Rowe, who's like the guy from Dirty whatever.
Yes. Yeah. All right.
Well, I mean, next thing you know, it'll be that moron from My Pillow.
Might as well be Krusty the Clown. Anyhow, getting back to it. So then the Jets signed Tyron Smith, which is a good signing, but then you see the contract, and it's kind of interesting because if he plays, I don't know, like 6 games, I think it is, he gets to a certain level.
Right.
If he plays, it's a percentage of snaps. Because last year I think he played 73%. If he plays that, he gets to a level. If he plays over that, he gets to a level. And then if he gets to a Super Bowl and plays in every game, he gets to another level. And it's like, okay, I mean, look, this guy's been an all-pro. I don't think just giving him incentives like that is going to keep him in every game this year. Like, there's 17 games. Like, he's an older offensive lineman. You can put whatever incentives you want, but chances are that guy's not going to reach him, right?
Yeah,
so I find that is just an exercise in futility.
You can rest him against New England because they suck, but I mean,
so there's that, and now I see that the Jets are inviting into camp Jadeveon Clowney, who on the surface really doesn't have a position. He's a pass rusher, and he's pretty good at tackling guys.
Well, what do you mean they're inviting him to camp? They're not giving him.
He isn't signed, so they were just inviting him.
They're inviting
not to camp, but just to talk.
Yeah, okay.
And I don't know what position he plays, Mike.
He's an end.
Okay, so he's an end that tackles a little bit and sacks quite a few, or at least gets hurries. But the Jets are good in that category, so I don't understand what they're doing with that. But it's just there's a lot of talent still out there. Is my point.
He's replacing the guy who went to the Eagles.
Huff, but again, he'll cost a lot more than Huff cost them.
Well, I don't know. I think Clowney was with Baltimore last year, and he didn't make a ton of money. So he's sort of that journeyman, type of just like, I mean, he's I can't think of the word right now, but it's a gun for hire type of thing, where he has had a history of injuries, but yeah, I mean, like. The Bills are going to bring back Shaq Lawson, who, more than likely, who played for the Jets, who played for the Dolphins, who was drafted by the Bills, and he came back to the Bills, and he just, he keeps coming back. He's like,
he wasn't great for the Jets either.
No, and he's been better. This is the thing. He's been better as a role player, and a lot of these guys, I mean, I don't know how many teams do what the Bills do, but the Bills have been really effective at rotating like 8 defensive linemen. Like they play like 50% of the snaps.
Yeah, the Jets do. Like last year, they had like 5 or 6 that they were doing.
Yeah. So, So anyway, we'll get the show started. I'm not going to do a long one today. Ack may be joining us. Jan might be joining us if they can shake loose from whatever's going on. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Tuesday, March the 19th, 2024, St. Joseph's Day.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology, and I didn't know that.
Yes. This is the Italian version of St. Patrick's Day, which means we eat a lot. And this is the Hockey Buzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. But in my family, we always eat a lot. So every day is St.
Listen,
Patrick's.
every Italian family I know, they always ate a lot.
Yes. Okay. I'm not sure what Michael Cohen is referring to here, so I'm not even going to mention it. Okay. So let's touch on some of the things coming out of the general managers meetings. Elliot Friedman, Chris Johnston have been reporting on this. Now there's some interesting stuff. There's some stuff that I didn't really expect any kind of changes. Like the general managers usually divide up into groups and talk about items that are particularly irking them, and to be reviewed by the competition committee during the summer, or even rule things out of hand, rule them out of hand. One of the things is no change to 3-on-3 overtime, which of course, at the end
of the day, at this time of the year, we're starting to see better 3-on-3 because now teams can't afford to just get 1 point. They need the 2 points.
But these changes wouldn't be implemented until next season.
No, I know. But I'm just saying, for I would say half the season, there's a little bit too much chess play. But then I would say after the trading deadline, teams try harder in overtime to win because they realize that the loser point becomes just that.
Yeah, and I don't know if they mean no changes, meaning that they're not even going to address the sort of over and back stuff that they were talking about, like going out of the zone. I mean, honestly, 3-on-3 has become a bore. The shootout is become a extremely big bore. I've never liked the shootout. I mean,
I told you I fell victim in the All-Star game. I was in Florida. I think that was Patrick Waugh's last All-Star game, and it was like in 2001. I was like a new reporter. This was great. All of it's great. And by 2003, I was like, this sucks.
Yeah. It was great early on, and then coaches learned how to coach it.
Yeah.
So, very few times are there instances where it's exciting and back and forth. I remember, there was one that was just unbelievable. It was Ottawa and somebody where it was just back and forth for 5 minutes. It was just ridiculous. And now, one thing that is going to be implemented immediately, apparently in one recent game, an official had been cut by a player jumping over the boards. So players will not be able to have their legs over the bench or in play while not on the ice. So I'm assuming that means that they're going to have to leave via the door, or are they not allowed to jump on at all?
It's a good question. I always felt like the cheating has gotten to a bad point with that. I think they should have 2 doors. Why is there 1 door?
I think there is 2 doors at both ends.
No, but I mean on each end it should be 2 doors.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean? Because the bench is crowded. It's hard for guys. I mean, yeah. I think there should be 2 doors on each side.
Well, I mean, if that's the case, then they shouldn't even have a bench. They should just have an open space or something like that. I mean, I don't know. All I know is
that weird if they had an open space.
Yeah. Then there'd be stoppages all the time because people would be shooting into the bench.
The water bottles would be on the ice for sure.
Right? Well, I mean, God knows they'd have to find someplace else to spit. But I mean, honestly, it's gross right now. Imagine somebody who jumps over the boards and falls, and you're falling into all that spittle. It's just gross. So nothing of major consequence. I know that there were some mentions of LTIR. Like that's something that can't be addressed until the CBA, and even then, I don't think it's going to get addressed.
Although technically, the CBA can be changed at any time as long as both sides agree.
Right, but the problem is the players don't want to change
it. I know,
and that's what the players are never going to want to change LTIR. It
creates jobs, Mike.
Yes, exactly, and it creates jobs on the management side. Now you have 32 capologists. So. I should have my subject should my best subject should have been math instead of history. I could be a capologist now.
Math wasn't for me either.
It was the only class I ever failed.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I failed
freshman in high school math.
I failed statistics. The football coach who didn't like me, and I can't remember why, gave me a 64. So 1 point. He failed me by a point. So I had to go to summer school, and I went to summer school. It's the only time I ever went to summer school. But in summer school in New York, you had to take New York State. You had to take 3 classes.
Right.
So one was gym, one was the math class that I had to retake, and then I had to choose just some other course. The interesting thing about that is I chose creative writing, and many years later, it probably became a good thing for me, because then I was writing. By the 2000s, that's all I was doing was writing. Like in management, I was writing some policies and procedures, but by 2000, I was writing. So the creative writing was good, and that math class, I got like a 98. So
I was going to say, I got like a 95 in summer school. In the same class.
A big middle finger to that teacher.
Yeah, the teacher, because my father was a teacher, and I went to summer school at the same school that my dad was teaching summer school, and the math teacher told him, says, "There's nothing wrong. He knows what he's doing. Who was the teacher?" And then he mentioned the teacher's name and says, "That guy's a dick." So
that's what it is. That's what it was with me too.
So, but I did learn my lesson. I had an elective and then we'll get off this in a second. I had an elective in senior year. It was either math 12 or chemistry, and I took chemistry. Because chemistry is all memorization. It's all remembering the periodic table, and So anyway, so let's talk about what happened last night. Only a couple games, light schedule. The Buffalo Sabres stay, they're doing their John Travolta imitation. They're staying alive. They beat Seattle 6-2. Now the big game is tonight. They play Vancouver, second of back-to-back. Devin Levi, it sounds like he's going to get the start because Luukkonen played last night. Skinner had a hat trick for the Sabres, who gave up the first goal 24 seconds into the game, then quickly bounced back.
Seattle's dead. They're dead.
Yeah, Seattle's dead. In the West. I mean, the West, honestly, I think the race is over with, except for positioning. I can't imagine anybody catching either Nashville or LA, Vegas, whoever is third place, fourth place in the Pacific. It's not going to be Minnesota. It's not going to be St. Louis. It's not going to be Seattle. So it's pretty much over with, except
St. Louis still has a chance.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Whatever. So Buffalo has feigned hopes.
Buffalo has faint hopes, but the thing is, the team that they were chasing by the time the game was over with was not the team that they were chasing, because Washington beat Calgary. And, Washington is the most bizarre story this year, because they have a minus differential that's consistent with most playoff teams. And Anthony is joining us via the vehicle here. We'll get to the subject I'm sure you want to talk about, Anthony, in a second.
Yeah.
We're just talking about the fact that Washington right now is in the second wild card after jumping over Detroit, and the fact that I think it's minus 26 or minus 27 goal differential.
Yeah.
And I mean, really, they have Charlie Lindgren in goal. What is Ovechkin?
He's their guy. I mean, they all believe in him.
Ovechkin's got 18 goals, so
20 now. He got 2 last night.
Okay, so he got 20. So so he's on his way to catching Gretzky.
He's heating up.
51 goals, a lot of goals, Mike.
He's doing it, baby.
The Russian machine is back.
Bye, Wayne. See you, Wayne.
It's a lot of goals. We'll see.
But no, I mean, the race is still tight. You've got 4 teams within 4 points. I mean, Buffalo is behind the 8 ball in the sense that they've played the most games, but they still play Washington twice, New Jersey once, and Detroit once. So, of like 1/3 of their schedule is head-to-head matchups against the teams that they're in the race with. So they have to win like 10 of 13. So is that likely? No, but they're still technically in it. So, but Anthony, Washington is just bizarre. I mean, how they're doing this right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of the way this whole playoffs, this whole race in the East has been. It's like anybody, somebody, sure, why not? Sure, Washington, come on in. Let's get involved in the party here. It is bizarre. The whole Eastern playoff race has just been a case of No, you should do. No, please,
Right.
no, you please go right ahead. So this
Take
doesn't
that.
surprise Washington in this spot is not surprising me even a little bit. I do like their coach. I like Spencer Carberry.
Yeah, he's doing
I
a
think
good job.
they may be they may be finding their game at just the right time to finally begin to kind of, because again, Islanders have had their opportunities. They keep slipping up. New Jersey's at this point now. I don't want to say they're gone, but they're getting pretty close at this point now. It is what it is, and they're just Washington's the latest hopeful, I guess you could say. The latest, hey, we're a candidate.
Yeah, no, it's bizarre. I mean,
I can't give you any other good explanation. What's their goal differential?
-27.
Yeah, goal
I mean,
differential
seriously, how do
means
you
nothing
explain
now.
that?
I mean, okay, right now here, okay, in the East, Montreal's -50, Columbus is -47, and the next is Washington at -27. So it's now they're only a point behind Philadelphia, and they have a game in hand on the Flyers.
Yeah,
So
they actually have a better, like 2% better chance. If you
Right.
believe in that.
Exactly.
Here's
So-
the thing, though, Mike. I've studied Washington a little bit, and we knew Ted Starkey brought up the schedule thing, which actually does favor Washington, just because they play meaningful games that they could actually gain on the teams, and they play the Flyers last game of the season, by the way. But the interesting thing is a few things. So Dylan Strome, he's leading the team in scoring. He's finally the player that we thought he was when he was drafted.
But this is opportunity because Backstrom's gone.
Right.
And
Carlson
Kuznetsov too.
Carlson is back to being almost Carlson since kind of being really banged up last year. Mantha has found his game under Carberry big time with 20 goals.
Well, that was before he got traded.
Yeah. Before he got traded, but he
Right.
got the wins. He did.
Yes.
Wilson's back to being himself. Sandin, now Sandin's doing okay. He's not killing it. But this is the part that makes Washington one of the best teams is their drafting and development is so much better than so many other teams. And you look at it and you say, Alexei Protas, 28 points. Connor McMichael, 27 points, 14 goals. And they, brought these guys along slowly. You could look at their lineup and they have a lot of homegrown players. And they've had to mix in guys, don't get me wrong. But they've done a good job. They've traded guys at the right time. They've gotten guys at the right time. They've done a really good job here, so I think that's a big part of it too.
I think they're just, again, there's some good elements to Washington. I like Sandin. Obviously, the Caps like Sandin a lot to obviously commit the contract that they did to him. So I think that's a big part of it for Washington is that, they have players in this case that I think at this point, as a collective unit, they're peaking at a good time.
And they got the draft picks similarly to what the Flyers were trying to do with when they traded Walker. They got 2 draft picks from Mantha, which, even
again,
if
we'll see where those picks end up. But yeah,
fourth.
those are solid. That's a solid trade for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the Sandin contract was took people aback a little bit, but it didn't surprise me because he's an offensive defenseman. He's a good puck carrier. He's not the fastest guy in the world, but he knows what he's doing. I think they see him as the eventual assumptor throne of Carlson.
Yeah, Carlson won't be there much longer.
Yeah, and we know the NHL's a north. Again, NHL remains a north-south game, and anybody who can spring load your offense from the back end is going to have, it's going to have that kind of value. I think they did I thought the value of the contract is great, for Sandin. So.
Just because everybody's talking about this in the chat, and I just checked online. I'm not going to speculate on it, but there are a number of reports that Chris Simon has passed away at the age of 52. Now, there's varying reports of how it's happened. I'm not going to speculate until we've heard it from more.
Exactly. We could say that discussion for another day.
Right. Exactly. Let's talk about the Flyers-Leafs game tonight. Start with the Flyers because the news that came out this morning was that Sean Couturier was going to be a healthy scratch, that's the thing that's laughable here because I've heard from not only you guys but other people that say Couturier he's come back from all the health issues. He's played a ton of minutes. And I was stunned last week when he was playing fourth line. And I'm like, this guy's not playing fourth line if he's 100% healthy. So this is, if people are saying he's being healthy scratched,
it is. As of right now, Mike, it's considered to be, again, no injury on report.
Okay.
There's no indication of this. He's coming. Now, again, his play since he came back in as he has struggled. Let's make no mistake about it. If this was another forward in this circumstance, not named Sean Couturier, and this is probably where, again, John Tortorella's using that as a, saying that I can't look at any other guy any differently. But the situation is what it is. Again, we could say maybe that when he came back from injury, he's, from mid-January, that his play wasn't great. Do I think it's healthy scratch bad? No, not at all. Not at all. This is, to me, whatever message that the head coach is trying to get across to his locker room, which could, again, be as simple as anybody is eligible, that if I don't think you're playing well enough, you might have to sit down. So is this a case of, having that message, sending a message to the room? I don't know. It sure seems that way, because you can't tell me that playing Noah Cates had a lot of time at center. That being said, I think, Russ, you and I would agree that's not his best position. Not at all.
Nope.
You can play the position in an emergency.
Yeah. But
this is not a case where Sean Couturier is injured.
Right.
Yeah, this is the quote from our Bill Meltzer here from Couturier. I've been putting in the work for a while. I've been struggling, but I've been working on my game, and it's frustrating the way I've been treated around here lately, but it is what it is.
So this is a shout across the bow. And this is what I tweeted out earlier today. John Tortorella, I think, is taking a big risk with this locker room right now. Yeah. A big risk. And obviously, management's going to back him because they have to in this circumstance. It doesn't look. It won't look good if they don't back him in this circumstance.
Right.
But this is a guy who 34 days ago was named your team captain. Right. The optics on this is what it is, and it's not good if the player can still obviously serve you in a role, and the fact that he was. Partially, I think his last shift before he got scratched, he was on the Delorier empty netter. Look at the effort that he put out on that play, and then he's sitting down for the rest of the game.
Right.
Like, what? To me, it's like, what is going on here?
Well, here's what I want to say. And Anthony, we sit near each other, so we've talked about this, but I've had some extra time to think about this. So we knew, and we all talked about this preseason, starting the year, there should have been a load management plan for him, where there really wasn't. Now,
he's the definition of putting in a load management.
Thank you.
Right. Now, and with Joel Embiid in town, it should be very obvious. But anyhow, it didn't happen. Now, when he started, and there was a time right before the break where they were giving him fewer minutes because it was already starting to show. And we all knew it was going to show. And we would all talk about it on Press Row. But now the issue is, at first, when he was getting put on the fourth line, I'm like, okay, I guess they're just shortening his minutes. But then he didn't play well. Not that he had been given great guys to play well with either. So then all of a sudden it's become like, he really doesn't have anything wrong. John just doesn't like his play. And so when Torts came out yesterday and said, well, he's just got to give me the best he can. I don't care if it's 7 minutes, 14 minutes, whatever. I don't think. And this has always been a blind side with this coach. He really doesn't care about what has happened to you to lead up to this season. He only cares about what's happening this season. Now, with him, it's obvious. He needs more training in the offseason to try and get back closer to himself, because it's amazing. We all would agree it's amazing what he's even doing right now, considering he spent almost 2 years away from the rink. And then if you look at Atkinson, clearly right now he's hit a brick wall, and we know guys with that neck fusion are going to be limited offensively. he never did anything about Atkinson either. He just kind of threw him in there and was like, hey, I got Atkinson and Couturier back. And now he's sort of paying that price. And Anthony's right. He's taken a big risk because there's not been any lack of effort on Couturier at all.
No, and this is going to be accountability. Then, and also the fact that why is it that the assistant coach is the one
I know
talking today and not John? John, again, Tortorella is the one who made this decision.
Right.
You should be the one answering the questions and not waiting up until game time to basically see what happens and then just say, if they win, he looks like, he's basking in genius. But then if they lose, he can do his whole 1 minute and 3 second interview and be and just be sort of gruff about it and not actually answer questions. And the fact of the matter is, at the end of the day, when your captain says to you, I haven't gotten a clear reason as to why I'm out of the lineup, then it's up to the coach then to either let the player know more specifically and not the case. This can't be a case of I need more out of you. Be more specific as to what exactly it is you need.
Anthony, remember, Couturier is a son of a coach.
Right.
Like, he understands.
Right.
You can understand. He will understand this. So
and here's my issue. If you're talking about accountability, if you're talking about a fact that 65, 66 games into the regular season after playing him, I don't know what his average ice time is.
He was over 20 minutes. He was
some games 24.
Right. Okay. 24 minutes some nights. He rode him hard early in the season.
Playing him that much, the person who's accountable here is John Tortorella, because this guy's worn out. It's friggin' ridiculous.
Right, so he may not have an injury, Mike. It's not a case. He had an injury in mid-January. Obviously, came back from an injury in mid-January. But you have to understand, at this point, and you could say, well, I need to put the best guy in the lineup here, and if Sean's not good, then be specific. What is it that he's not giving you? Right. If it's offense, then just say it. I need more offense out of you.
Yeah, but you know what?
But enunciate that. At least say that.
If he actually explained that, Anthony, then it would come back on him, because the reason that he is off right now is because you've been beating him into the ground all year. That's why.
Couturier is not going to admit that. He's a proud hockey player.
Of course he's not.
Who works his tail off.
Especially if you feel that the coach, for a coach who's always says, all the players on that locker room say, I know, one of the reasons why I respect John Tortorella is that you always know where you stand. The problem is that the team captain doesn't know where he stands. And that is where the problem is going to be. And that's the risk that John Tortorella is taking by putting him out of the lineup. Whether he cares about it or not, and he's looking at it from whether the player has a C or not the C, this is a guy who carries a lot of respect in that locker room.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Now, there's a little bit of dissension with the Islanders right now based on what Patrick Waugh said about Ilya Sorokin. Now, I saw Sorokin up close when the Islanders played the Sabres, and the Sabres dominated that game, and it was only because of Sorokin that it stayed close until the third period. And then, I don't think he let in a bad goal, but I think was expecting Sorokin to be Terry Sawchuk. And it's like, with the defense that the Islanders have put in front of him this year, which has not been up to this usual standard Islander defense, the defensive concept, I think, he has a 910 save percentage, but his goals against is over 3, which just tells you how many shots he's facing.
I look at it like this, Mike. We know how Patrick Waugh is. We knew how great he was as a goalie. I think he's done a good job as a coach this year in motivating and being honest with his players and such. And I think with this one, I'm not sure he understands the impact he has as a goalie talking to another goalie. So now this is one of the greatest goalies, if not the greatest goalie ever, saying, you're not good enough right now. And
I'm not 100% pleased with Sorokin's play of late, said Waugh. It's obvious, and I'm sure he's not himself. He's not pleased with it himself.
So just imagine, this is Patrick Waugh. It doesn't get any higher than this. This is Patrick Waugh saying this to you as a goalie, or not even saying it to you, saying it to the press first, possibly. And it's like, that's intimidating for a goalie. And now you have to take into account, like, he's a Russian goalie. So, and everybody's different, the way they receive messages and everything. And I don't know how Sorokin's going to take this. I'm sure he's not going to, wither up, but I don't know if this is going to make him better, because like Mike said, this doesn't improve the defense. So is it like, how much can you get out of Sorokin? Like, he's had a pretty good year. Maybe he could be a little better, but so could his team. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, right now the Islanders, this is the thing I saw with the Islanders on Thursday, Anthony. They're a one-line team. It's Brock Nelson.
News at 11, Mike.
Yeah.
That's been there. That's been where they've been for how long now?
But he's made it even worse. It's like, okay, so he hasn't tried to spread out the offense. He's basically
he is tonight. He's splitting up Horvat and Barzal.
Yeah, okay. So because they had Nelson with Horvat and Barzal on one line, and then their second line had Pierre Engvall on it.
It doesn't have Engvall now. Now it's got Barzal, I think they said on the radio Barzal, and then you've got Anders Lee, and I forget who the other forward's going to be.
Yeah, Palmieri probably.
Yeah, probably Palmieri. So yeah, they're just trying to become a two-line team, which sometimes works and many times doesn't.
Yeah. So now here's something interesting, and I'm going to write about this for Hockey Buzz. Chris Johnston wrote a piece regarding about the Leafs and Brad Treliving talking about, that he's very pleased with the way the team is playing right now. They're 15-5-1 in the last 21 games. They're playing the Flyers tonight. Marner's out, but they're not rushing him back because they're not going anywhere. They're in third place. They're locked in there. And they talked about the deadline, and he was essentially saying, well, we don't have the greatest top four in the league, but I like our defensive depth. And I'm like, okay, yeah, great. Unfortunately, you don't play your bottom pairing 25 minutes a night, Brad. You play your top four guys 20 plus minutes. And when they're subpar, you're going to friggin' lose. And that's the issue here. He did nothing to address the top four. Why? Because he didn't have the assets, because Kyle Dubas traded a lot of draft picks. I get that. So he's not completely to blame here. But to come out and say, we like our defensive depth, that's really going to help them, Russ, when they play Florida or Boston, and Simone Benoit and Jake McCabe are out there for 20 plus minutes against Pasternak and Marchand.
I know. I mean, look, we saw last game against the Flyers, their defense was improved. Fine. But I don't think it's ruggedly tested, playoff improved that's going to get them past, Boston or Tampa. I think Tampa, now that they got Dumba, is on a different level than we've seen them all year.
Yeah,
so that's a real addition. No offense to, Brad.
Yeah, no. I said it when we were all together on that Friday when Tampa got him for a 5th round pick. First of all, I said F you to Arizona, and I will say that until I'm blue in the face, because that trade and the Jason Sucker deal should be negated because they got nothing for him. There's complete salary dumps. But the league won't do that because Arizona is a joke in and of itself. But Dumba for a 5th round pick. Every general manager who paid 3rds and 4ths for bottom pairing defensemen had to be shaking their head.
Yeah. So I mean, again, you look at it. I don't know. I think the Leafs, it doesn't even matter what they do the rest of the regular season. It just doesn't. You know that. I know that. We all know that.
That's a lot of money that season ticket holders are losing now, Russ.
I know.
Nothing matters.
Well, I mean, but it's all true. At this point,
I know.
We are going to just judge them on the playoffs at this point.
But we've been in this mode for how many years now, Mike?
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's right. I mean, I don't blame Vegas and Tampa Bay of taking advantage of the system. That's what the system is there for. It's an equal opportunity for every team to do the same thing. It's just obviously they make more money and they're in a position where they're trying to win now. And but Arizona, I mean, Arizona is a pimple on the butt of the NHL, and it needs to be exiled. It needs to be,
Well, let me
exsanguinated.
Mike, let me ask you a question, because
yes,
Austin Matthews is not only amused by his new teammate, new line mate, I should say.
Tyler Bertuzzi?
Tyler Bertuzzi. Yeah. But I wonder now, when Marner comes back, why break that up? Maybe put Marner on the second line, simply because you're getting more out of Bertuzzi now than you were a month ago. And Matthews likes him. Like, he likes the fact that he digs for a puck. He likes the fact that he's trying to deflect pucks in. I kind of wonder if that does add a dimension to their offense that they weren't thinking about.
Well, unfortunately, the problem is that Matthews has stopped scoring. Matthews hasn't. I don't think Matthews has 1 goal in 5 games, and that was
he scored 2 points against Philly. Don't worry, he'll score another 2 tonight.
I'm gonna say I would look at this more as a lull for Matthews, like a speed bump at the moment.
But honestly, if you needed if Darren Ferris needed a selling point in terms of Mitch Marner and the impending negotiations that'll start on July 1, you see where the Toronto power play has gone and the Toronto penalty killing, where Marner is a fixture on both. Their power play, I think, is 1 for the last 21, and they're one of the 6 or 7. They're like 24th in the league in penalty killing. They're terrible, and he's a key on both. So I heard a report today with one of the beat reporters saying, well, the contract situation with Marner, he's got the no move clause. He's not going to go anywhere if he doesn't want to go. But when they start negotiations on July 1, what's the key going to be? And it's Marner. And the reporter said Marner showing up in the playoffs. If he shows up or not, he doesn't have to go anywhere. That's I know he can get an 8-year deal if it's a sign and trade, and we've seen sign and trade.
Oh, yes. There's so many teams that would line up for an 8-year sign and trade.
Right. So, I mean, is it impossible that he gets moved? No, it's not impossible. But you see Matthews and his production declining without Marner. I'm not saying he's not going to score, but he's not going to score as much. Now, the question is, do you want to pay him the same amount or more than what Nylander's being paid? Then, okay, now you're going to have a $13.25 million player in Matthews, 11.5 in Nylander, and at least
which Nylander? I know Alex is scoring.
Well, yeah, I was going to ask you about that, Russ. I mean, gee.
Because he's getting opportunity on a bad team.
Right.
You put Alex Nylander in a pressure situation, and let me see what he does then.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying, it's like all of a sudden he's scoring, and people are asking William, like, hey, I'm super proud of my brother. Yeah, I mean, gee, he was only 8th pick in the draft, and he's only been on 6 teams or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, no.
I just wonder if they keep Bertuzzi on the top line. And
I don't think so. I think what they're going to do is because they'll probably put Nyes back with Marner and Matthews when they come back, and then Bertuzzi was producing when he was playing with Domi and Nylander. So I think they were getting 3. They had 3 lines producing at that point, and then the injuries hit. So
yeah.
So we lost Anthony. I want to answer this. I'm not sure if Anthony's coming back, but somebody. Oh, he said no.
He's never coming back.
He's never coming back. Somebody in the chat asked about Colin Graff from Quinnipiac.
Yeah, Graff is good. I think he's a potential 3rd-line guy. Mm-hmm. He does have a scoring touch. He's like 6 foot 190. Plays a really good, solid game, and I think the Rangers are after him. I know people are like, well, Drury speaks Connecticut, and so maybe they can get him because he's from Quinnipiac. But the problem with the Rangers is they have to show him a path to being able to actually play with the team as soon as next year. Otherwise, he's going to have opportunities where he can come in this year, burn the ELC, and start playing and play next year for some team anyhow.
Right.
So this is the one thing, though. This is where a team like with the lore that the Rangers have, if his favorite team was the Rangers growing up, they do get a little edge here. And that's where the college market has been kind to the Rangers. And it's also very kind if they're good because it saves you on the cap, right? So, yeah I think they have a shot at him. I bet you there are probably 6 teams that want him.
Well, I know that in the piece that CJ did with on Treliving said that they had included a low-level prospect in the deal, sending that player to Minnesota for Connor Dewar to open up a contract slot to sign a college free. They have 2 contract slots, so they could sign a college free agent or 2. So,
well, the guy they should sign is Zach Bookman. If they can't get Graf, Zach Bookman, still never drafted. He was almost a point a game this year as a defenseman for Merrimack. So
right.
he's not on the best team. He had 100 points in the AJHL 2 years ago as a defenseman, 5'10", and I think he could really make it as like one of those third pairing power play guys.
As soon as you said 5'10", that's over.
It doesn't matter, Mike.
I know. I'm just telling you about Toronto.
I know, but he won't be in the league for a couple of years anyhow. He's not playing right away.
Treliving traded for a 6'7".
I understand. Treliving's got to understand. Not everybody's like that. So you're telling me Treliving wouldn't trade for Torrey Krug if he could get him because he's 5'10"? No, of course he would.
I don't think he would.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
I don't think he would. Now, somebody who's already in his system, like Topi Niemelä, who's a prospect, I think, that, okay, fine. That's already in your organization, but I think.
Okay, so just argument's sake.
Yeah.
I think Bookman's better than Niemelä. So just because Niemela's in the Leaf system, you're going to keep him just because they're the same height and we got a short guy. So he's our short guy to keep because we drafted him. Who cares?
No, Niemela's right-handed. I don't know if Bookman is. Niemela's been in their system and played for the Marlies for 2 years. So he's been under the tutelage of Gruden this year. He's played really well. I'm just saying. I'm not saying that this is not a
right-handed shot. Also,
okay. I'm not casting aspersions on Bookman. I'm just saying.
I know.
Basically, looking at Treliving's penchant for big defensemen. If he has a small defenseman in the system, fine. If he's bringing defensemen into the system, they're going to be big.
He also had 38 blocks.
Now,
so it's not like he is just an offensive defenseman either.
Right. Now, I don't know, and I know that this guy is still active right now in the KHL, but there's a lot of talk about this Maxim Siplikov.
Wait, before we get to Siplikov,
yeah.
Randy is saying the Flames signed a free agent, but the NHL nixed the contract. I mean, who was it? Hobie Baker? Like, who was it? Like, seriously.
They nixed the contract because he's been dead for 8 years.
Give us a name.
Yeah, I mean, Sam Morton.
Sam Morton. Okay.
Let me see.
I've never seen the name.
I saw the signing on Cap Friendly today.
Right.
Sam Morton was signed to a one year contract. Minnesota State Mankato.
Right. I remember. Yep.
4-year player. 24.
Oh, it's his age. He can't have an ELC because he's 25.
He's 24.
No, he's going to be 25 though.
Right, but I think I think
he must be turning 25 in the next few weeks, and his entry level age is going to be 25. Ryan Pike.
Well, okay. If the rule is the ELC starts when he's 25, because
it starts next year, right? So
yeah, his birthday is July 28th. So that maybe the cutoff would be September. So
yeah. So Ryan Pike wrote about this, and so of course it's going to get nixed. But I look at the Flames front office and say, don't you know this? This is kind of embarrassing.
Right. So now he wouldn't. He's too old to be in the draft. So he has to be signed to a free agent contract.
The only thing you can do now is sign him to like an ATO or whatever, and then have his ELC. You can't be an ELC. It's just got to be a contract start after that. That's it.
Yeah. So. So I mean, they'll probably get this straightened out, but yeah, Conroy messed up.
It's not just him. Remember, there's a capologist. There's other guys there that the GM doesn't have every bit of knowledge on ELCs, on the cap, all these things. There are other people in the front office that aid the GM. The GM's the one who's going to take the hit. But there are others in that front office that are supposed to alert the guy when they're interested in him to look up everything and say, these are our options.
I just want to bring this up because this was bizarre. And Shane Pang, our buddy who's with San Jose Hockey now, reported that the Sharks had fired Igor Aranko, who I'm friends with on social media, on Twitter, on X. And I've exchanged messages with him before, but apparently I guess he rose to the level of being an assistant GM with Omsk in the KHL, and he was working as a scout with San Jose, and San Jose fired him. And Greer came out in comments today. He destroyed him, and I'm like, I mean, wow. I mean, that's pretty bold. I mean, that usually
I'm sure it's truthful, or otherwise, we know what's going to happen next. So, but I understand Greer's, being upset because he's not getting results in that part of the world with his team.
Right.
Even Barabanov, they got from someone else, right?
I got him from Toronto, yeah.
Right. So that's my point. He's probably looking at it like, remember, in the last year, and I think this is what probably prompted it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of Russians signed free agent contracts in the NHL. Remember, like last summer, there was quite a few guys.
Yeah, because
looking at that and saying, why not us?
Yeah. So Maxim Siplikov, just to touch on this and then we'll end the show. He's playing for Spartak Moscow in the KHL. He's like 4th in the league in goals with 31. The thing that I'm sure makes NHL scouts a little suspicious is that he jumped from like 6 to 31, or no, it was like 6 to 12 to 31. It's like, these guys who sort of come out of nowhere. I mean, yes, is it possible they just found themselves? Sure. But I'm sure that an NHL team, I'm sure there's many NHL. Yeah. So, okay. He had 9 goals 4 years ago, or 3 years ago, 4 goals 2 years ago, 10 last year, and 31 this year. So
what's his age?
25.
I mean, it's possible he just clicked, or it's possible there's a line driver that he's taken full advantage of in the KHL, and that's boosted his numbers. Yeah, I mean, I don't particularly know him.
Right.
Anything I have on him would be older. So, yeah, it's a weird situation but here's the way you look at it, Mike. At the end of the day, if the guy comes over, it's a low risk move to try and get him here and see if he fits, right?
Yeah, no. He is on that team. Nikolai Goldobin, who used to be in the NHL with San Jose and a few other teams, he's their leading scorer. So I'm assuming he's on the line with Siplikov because the guy has 78 points and Siplikov has 31 goals. He's second on the team with 31 goals, and Goldobin has 37. I think he's leading the KHL. So they're getting all their offense from that one line. So, yeah, I mean.
All right, so there's something brewing here. And it's on, of all places, HockeyDB, a guy named Tom Banks put it on. Hold on, my TV is on.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just looking up this other player that Esmir is asking about, Artemi Pleshkov. I mean, honestly, if these guys aren't but what were you saying, Russ? About
So in this article by Tom Banks on HockeyDB, apparently Danny Briere is mad about the Ryan Johansson thing.
Oh, you mean damaged goods? He's got to hit because they won't be able to buy him out, folks.
So this is so I guess I'm not sure where Danny spoke about this. I'm trying to get the quote.
Okay,
just come across my email.
Okay, Artemi Pleshkov is a goalie with SKA St. Petersburg. He's played 10 games. Really nice goals against for 10 games, 926 save percentage. He's 21 years old. I think at 21 he's too old to be drafted, right? 20 is the limit.
Yeah. Well, it depends. There's a date. There's a date thing, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I know that Hildeby, the Leafs draft pick, the goaltender, he was 21 when they drafted him. So he might still be eligible to be drafted.
Yeah, so Philly Hockey Now I don't know who wrote the article, whether it was John or Sam. They have a quote, and some other website used it. Ria wrote, he claimed to be injured when we traded for him, so we had him see the doctors. They found an injury, so he's now going to be rehabbing. You can't send down a player who's injured, which we talked about this on Locked On Flyers, so it takes up a roster spot. So he's going to be doing rehab until we don't know when. So he's back on our roster doing rehab and trying to get better. But of course, in a playoff race, or even when you're trying to develop players, that's taking up a roster spot because he's not going to the minors. He's injured.
But you can put him on IR.
Well, I guess there's probably a reason they don't want to. I don't, again, we're not cap experts, so I don't know.
Well, and that's the thing, Russ. If the intention for him is to be bought out, they don't want to put him on IR because then he'll never come off, and then they won't be able to buy him out.
Right. So and they probably plan on it. So yeah, I mean, again, this is it's part of the business. I don't know who's right, who's wrong, but I understand his frustration. I do.
Well, I mean, honestly, there's got to be a grievance situation here potentially with Colorado at the end of the year if this is sort of like a situation where they got damaged goods.
Right, but that's that's going to be a long road to figuring that one out.
Yes, but anyway. All right, we'll be back tomorrow with another edition of the Hockey Buzzcast for the departed Anthony Mangione. For Russ Cohen, I'm Michael Agello. Thank you for watching, and remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey.